What's up, you filthy cash?
I'm gonna back up.
I'm sorry. I thought this was my time to intro. What's up, you filthy casuals? Welcome to the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast, a podcast all about the irreverent love of gaming. I'm one of your hosts, a very well-lubricated Jeremiah. Tonight, I am joined by Joel.
Hey, yo.
Ranger Dave.
Dry as a bone.
And Papa James.
What's up? Got nothing.
Cool.
He's bone dry. I don't even know that is.
I think your smile says you know exactly what that is. Is it? It's rare. It's rare when you get the podcast title within the first 5 seconds of the episode, but I think we just did.
Bone dry.
A bone dry or
podcast.
dry as a bone.
Yeah.
So anyway, welcome to the podcast. For anyone asking, are we back? Yeah, I guess you could say we are. Except for the weeks when we're not. Yeah. All right. Wait, do we decide, are we podcasting next week and then not for like 3 weeks again after that?
Yeah, I think so. Because I'm going to be out of town for 2 weeks.
So the basic deal is we're going to do this when we feel like it and when we're able to, but we're trying to respect the fact that we live in a lot of different states and we all have very busy schedules. And the goal of this is to be a fun time to hang out and a fun time for y'all to hang out in the chat or in the comment section or whatever. And we're trying not to stress ourselves out with like a lot of production value. So you're going to get what you get.
Was that ever an issue?
I put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, no, I think that's good because I was talking with my wife the other night about the podcast and she was like, oh, what are you guys talking about? And I was like, it's actually kind of a legitimately hard thing to kind of almost think of a new topic. Because, I mean, again, we've done so many of these, especially when you covered gaming. And we're not necessarily a gaming news podcast in the sense of like, we're seeking out. So I think when we do find something that's like, oh, that's interesting, let's talk about that or whatever, or some basis of it, or any cool gaming news or movie news or something that's interesting, cool, let's do it. But it's like, honestly, if we had to do it like every week, I'm like, I don't know what I mean, like, there's only so much
to pay a lot more attention.
Yeah.
I don't think
we start talking about politics or something else.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
It could be. Who's ready to bring back casual conversation? I don't think the casual thing's going to last too long. But yeah, I mean, this really, you should think of this more as like you're just hanging out with your friends who also like video games and you guys are talking about stuff and occasionally you argue about video games and occasionally you talk about other things. Like we're not really going to plan this beyond a certain level. And we think that's what you guys have liked all these years. And we also think that's what's necessary for us to be able to do this and enjoy doing it on a regular basis. I also just accidentally dragged the Discord window to be slightly smaller, which is going to mess up my overlay.
That's okay. I tried the podcast doc.
That's that lubrication speaking.
That's a problem for tomorrow, Jeremiah, who has to edit the podcast. Today, Jeremiah doesn't have to worry about it. But
next time, dry as a bone should be the one doing the overlay.
We had company over, and I was like a half glass of wine in, and then the work incident call started. And so they were, but the company were people who work for me at work. And so I left them with my wife, who they've met once, and just left and had to go upstairs and get on the call. Hi, Zach from Nashville. Thank you for joining the show. Good to see you. So like I was already kind of lubricated before we got into this. And I'm at the point now I'm just been in front of this stupid computer too long today. And I forgot to put on my comfy shoes before I stood up here. So now my little feet are uncomfortable.
Why are you wearing shoes?
At the standing desk. It's uncomfortable if you're...
I was wondering, why are you standing?
Because my back doesn't work.
Okay.
So my back seized up. Oh, I need to talk to you about this, James. My back seized up about a week and a half ago. And I literally, like last Sunday, couldn't get out of bed. I had to go to urgent care and get muscle relaxers so that my like back would start working. And it was one of those where like when I got out of bed, I was using my hands on the wall to pull myself up bit by bit so I could get to standing.
I picture you, I mean, you're tall. I picture you actually reaching for the ceiling and doing all this stuff.
Actually, when in doorways and stuff, that's what I've been doing is stopping and then just holding myself upright at the doorway.
I am Atlas.
But there was a moment last Sunday where I was like, I'm in the weird life situation that I didn't think I was going to be in for many decades, where I'm about to go to the bathroom all over myself and the bed, or I'm about to have to call for a container.
Finally, other people can understand.
Joel's been doing this since teenage years.
Joel's like, I've been bedpanning for years. It really frees you up in the middle of the night. You're warm. You don't want to get out of bed. You just roll over and just aim for the spot where you have the nightlight on the floor.
Now you're really warm.
My water bill is much lower, too.
Yeah, Joel, you have to explain what the finally means.
Well, you're...
No, you're not getting out of this. You have to explain what that means.
No, I'm not going into it again. But we've had the whole pee incident and crap in my pants. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Okay, all right. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Pissing them out. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Episode 224, the gang toilet trains Joel.
All right. So anyway, our main topic tonight is game development in 2021, something that we're all intimately familiar with and, in fact, subject matter experts on. We want to, with no inside information, speculate on how's that going to continue affecting game quality. And this came up, I believe, because of Cyberpunk 2077, right? Where they said when the game released, Dave, you want to intro it? Because you're the one who...
Yeah. So specifically, there were two things that has me wondering about this. One was Cyberpunk is still not on the PlayStation Store, right? It was pulled right after launch. It's still gone. And they did talk about that specifically in one of the blog posts after launch, in that one thing that really threw off their last 6 months of game dev for Cyberpunk was their QA team was also working from home without the correct hardware for testing the console versions. So they were running like emulators and stuff like that to try and QA test the console versions. And then recently, a bunch of the 2021 Battlefield devs working on whatever the next title is going to be shared a like work from home pack that all the Battlefield dev team got, where they actually like designed a little Battlefield logo with like a made from home sub logo, like a mug, notebooks, shirts, all that kind of dev swag. But they basically completely embraced the next Battlefield title as like this was made working from home, which got me thinking. Vaccines are ramping up rapidly here in the US. Other countries are a little bit more behind, but it looks like for DICE, at least, and the next Battlefield title, they're not counting on anything changing before that October launch window. They're completely on board with work from home. That's just how this next title is going to be made. Too late for Cyberpunk, obviously, but maybe the DLCs they'll be able to QA test a bit better. But I'm just really wondering, how long is that embracing the work from home going to last? Is that going to be a permanent change in the industry, or are we going to see an attempt to get the hellhole open floor plan studios going again for some people?
I think it's going to be a permanent change in some respects. So like in the IT stuff that me, Dave, and Joel do, we have already given up our office space. It's been returned back to the organization. We are all permanently work from home. I just got the clearance this week that I can basically move wherever I want. You guys have had that since sometime last year. We've just embraced it. Like, this is our life now. And in IT, it can be a little bit different because that's been the norm for a long time as more and more people are working remotely. I think for studios, a lot of things are going to be semi-permanent work from home, and then I imagine there's going to be some effort for various members of like leadership and certain collaborators and stuff to have regular times where they're working together, because I don't think there's any way to replicate some of the benefits you get from being there in person. But everybody's, I hate saying like the new normal, because that's been a term that's been thrown around a lot during COVID, but everyone's adjusted expectations of what does it mean to actually collaborate with each other when you're not there in person. Like, it used to be a big deal when you had one or two people on a video call and everybody else was there in person, because the people on the video call were almost like the second class citizens of the group, right? They couldn't collaborate as much. They're always a couple milliseconds behind the conversation.
And it's always hard either way to hear, because sometimes we have a speaker and then some people would miss it, and you wouldn't hear as well.
But now that everybody is on video calls, like there are some advantages of that where like you're not waiting for meeting rooms to clear out and to go into them, and somebody stays 3 minutes longer and you're not racing around to get to a different meeting room.
I forgot about that.
You don't have to fight to book a meeting room. Like all of that stuff has gotten a lot better where like you can truly just call somebody and everybody is there at their desks. If they're available to talk. But a lot of what you miss, in my experience, and I'm guessing this is part of what they're talking about with Cyberpunk, is a lot of these small casual conversations that aren't scheduled and they're not part of the real work, but they inform you about the things that are going on and a lot of the subtle details that help kind of educate you on the best decisions to make. You find out by dropping into someone's room and just saying, hey, or you walk by somebody who's working on something cool and you stop by their desk for a minute and you ask them some questions. Yeah. And a lot of the little things that just build like the whole picture of we're the team and we're working together. Now you have to be really intentional about that. And that's very hard to do when you're remote because like, I don't know what my teams are doing that's really cool if they don't tell me about it. Like I can't see over their shoulder if they don't mention it in a meeting. Like I have no way of knowing. And so I don't know to go get them help from another department, or I don't know like, hey, you're doing this. Did you know that someone else is working on this other thing? You ought to collaborate with them because, you can help make this thing better. We don't really have any of that anymore. And it's not to say we can't replace it with something else better, but like in the case of Cyberpunk, when you're trying to QA a game, I can't imagine trying to do that when you have to work 100% just off bug tickets and screen shares. Cause like, it's a pain in the butt just getting this screen share working and you can't tell the quality and the frame rate and everything. It's all over the place. Like, how are you supposed to accurately do that to QA a game?
Hey, Dave, do you remember that one time just the other day when Dave proposed this topic? Jeremiah said he had not much to say about it. You don't get what to say.
Tying in his real world experience
give a good
here.
Perspective.
Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, it's
just
not
been thinking
terribly different. You're still launching a tech product.
Right.
No, that's what I was saying. Like, yeah, I know. I think it's fascinating. And I mean, I've already had talks with Jeremiah about this because, I mean, again, we've been doing this for a while, but to see how, different groups adapt and stuff. And it's going to be fascinating because I think, there's going to be a lot of jobs that people are not going by, especially even like New York, places, where it's so expensive for certain offices. That's going to be different. I mean, that's going to be so different because I think it's also an eye-opening, wow, we can actually do it this way. Or we go, wow, okay, this team can't, but these teams definitely can, or this makes a lot of sense. And then they're going to have to weigh, is it the slight benefit of having people in person where maybe they have more fun or something like that? Is it worth spending the money? So I think we're going to see that definitely change quite a lot. But it's cool seeing different tech. It's nice seeing certain people, even of different age groups, like older people, really good with. Like I had a chat with someone who was a backer of Norman, and he was like 65 or something like that. And he was like, "Oh, I'll send you a Zoom invite." Like, sent me that. Like, you just wouldn't have heard that kind of thing, a couple of years ago. Like, it just wouldn't. Like, hey, I'll send you a Zoom. Oh, what's that? How do I do in the email? And my wife, she works on websites, and she said it used to be when they would schedule meetings for new clients to discuss websites, she would have to email back and forth and say what day works and everything, because they tried doing, I think, this site called Calendly. So you could, so I could send it to Dave and he could go on, choose a date that works, and then hit accept. Well, they just didn't know how to do that. But now everyone's so used to doing stuff like that that it's made her job easier, because now she can just send it instead of having to do this back and forth. Oh, Saturday's good. No, do you have Friday? They can just see a calendar, kind of like choosing a vacation for a beach house or something, So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. A lot of movies, I saw like Pixar's Soul movie. The last 7 weeks of it, everything got shut down. And they're going to come out with a documentary about it, just how they had to frantically move their machines over. And something you said, Dave, about when it might move back is I could see some company like Cyberpunk or companies starting to move back because they'll need some of that camaraderie that it's just gonna be tough to organize such massive files. But the one thing that I bet is probably tiresome is all this movement to get it working this way. That's just going to take time to get back. So I think whether or not people want to do it faster or or sooner, it's I think it's just going to take time to like physically get that and then have to like move back into that type of,
I don't think
style.
they're going back into offices. I think you'll have leadership and some creative people and other people like who really benefit from being there in person will have some sort of like flexible work capability. But everybody who doesn't need to be in in-person meetings and doesn't have to do that type of stuff, like you save so much on office space. It opens up where you can hire people from, like, especially if you're in the Bay Area, it lets you hire somebody who works, like who lives in Montana and who's willing to work for half the money because that's great money where they live. Like you open yourself up to stuff like that and there's so much you don't have to furnish. I worry about the long-term effects on like morale and team unity but I think it's also, that's one of those things that over time, there's a lot that'll just become normalized and the way we work changes. And so we'll figure out ways to deal with that too. I still don't think there's any substitute for in person, but we're already so much better at doing this than we were like a year ago. James, what about you? Because I know you've had moves and job changes and stuff over the past year. Like, do you do much remote work or are you mostly in person?
Yeah, I did remote for a while. I did remote for remote since March.
And it was remote at the job that you used to do in person, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Even to being in a different state and still doing the same job, and only having to be there to do any, in-person type stuff that I absolutely had to be there for, but everything else was still remote.
I just picture you flying like a remote drone, trying to film.
If I could, I would. It worked pretty well. I mean, the thing that I think you lose with remote is a lot of the spontaneous ideas that come about, whether it's just like a little thought you have or even joking around about something. Like a lot of big ideas can come out of just little silly things that, you might say in jest. They're like, hey, that's actually a good idea. And then it, kind of builds from there. Typically you go to work and you go to lunch together with your team and you're trying not to like speak about work while you're at lunch, but it inevitably comes up and things do build from there.
Miss that for sure. Lunches.
So you do miss some of the, the team building, and as you spend time with your team, you do get closer to them. You kind of understand how they think, and that allows your creativity to then bounce off their creativity a little bit more.
Yeah, very true.
But, I think that it's still possible to do all the collaboration virtually. I mean, when Joel and I were working on Norman, everything was done over Skype for the most part, except for a few occasions where I'd come into town when we were editing. But even with editing, like Joel was like screen sharing and we were watching footage and it's like, hey, cut this back, a few frames or something like that. Or, working on the script, like literally just saying, like just speaking out loud as it just, comes off the top of the head and someone typing it down. I mean, but that's
really true about this.
This was years ago. I mean, the fact that there was filmmaking done. I mean, obviously the shooting couldn't be done remotely, but when we did when Joel and I did the film festivals, the first film festival we did, I was literally on this TV screen watching the actors make.
He was like help directing them on a couch as I'm like filming, and he was talking. It was just like they're like literally looking at them.
That's awesome, though.
But there were ways to get around that, and I think that generationally, the younger generations are going to be more inclined to be able to do that pretty fluently. But even now, obviously, the older generations are being thrust into that and realizing, hey, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
What I see, with most game developers that are small, I think the ability to work remote is still going to be there, but they're still going to want to have that tight knit community. So being able to have retreats and things like that are still going to be in the future. But I imagine some of the bigger companies that are a little more micromanagey are going to want people sitting at their desks, not necessarily pulling out their most creative juices there.
There's other departments where we work that they've brought people back in as soon as they could, because they want butts and seats and they want to be able to see everybody. We have the advantage, and I think this is true for a lot of IT and tech, so it's probably true of game development, of when a job type that's in demand and can work over the internet and is tech savvy, you kind of have to go where the market goes to a degree. Right. So we don't have the option to not hire remotely now. We have to do it in order to be able to be competitive. And that's really helped us, because like, that's kind of our excuse is like, sorry, like IT's remote now, like COVID helped speed it up, but this is what we have to do. I think for game development, like the die is cast.
Right. If you don't do that, then someone else is going to do it, and you're going to lose people to that company that doesn't. So that's going to be the same way with game development.
I guarantee you, April 15th last year, like a month and a half into this, people at EA, like bean counters, were looking, all right, so if we get rid of these office spaces and we shut all this stuff down, like they're already figuring out how to squeeze drops of profit out of not having to have human capital in the building. That's just the way it works.
On the other hand, let's also not forget, anybody else remember when Battlefield 5 was officially basically like canceled, like the rest of their support for the game was ended? It was in April. They basically killed Battlefield 5 as soon as everybody had to go remote. They just said, no, we can't change this late.
There was a lot of panic.
Yeah, was it really because of that, or was it because it was being so poorly received? Everything they did to the game, people just got mad at them, so they're like, oh no, COVID.
little column A and B, I think, because the Pacific had come out in November, and that was well received before they shot themselves in the foot with that rebalance.
It probably was
again.
like almost a good timing for them to go, well, we can just let's just cut ties, because they were wasting so much money on making more content.
And there was a lot of goodwill from people being like, yeah, it's COVID. You could get away with anything because of COVID. It's like, look, I wasn't going to commit fraud, but, I'm just, everyone's cooped up at home. It's all bad.
I'm just so stressed,
we're going to cancel the game, but we're not
out.
going to get rid of you so we can get those PPP loans.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, a lot of businesses did that. They're like, hey, you still work for us, but not in the, like, showing up or collecting a paycheck way, just in the, like, if somebody asks.
You guys got the loans? I just got the PP. That was stupid.
Is it bone
I
dry?
was thinking in my head. Maybe that's funny. No, it's not. I apologize.
Joel, I always
Why don't you text that next time?
Yeah, I appreciate that you thought
Audition it
about it in your head.
Okay,
And then you,
yeah, that needed an audition.
I feel you, Joel. I always just get the PP from the government.
By the way, with the way YouTube has changed since we've been doing the podcast regularly, I have to check a box every time this is not suitable for children, and I check it every single time. You never know. All of our topics are officially safe for work.
On the note of game development, specifically working from home, it's not a completely new thing. One thing I thought was pretty cool about the FPS game Insurgency, which I think most of us have played either the first or the second Insurgency. Their team, I believe, was almost entirely remote. They had like maybe 5 or so of the core team that was at one like little, I think it was just like a house they were running, like a studio location. But I remember specifically their weapon artist was in, I think, North Carolina, and was working on their weapons, where he would like borrow guns from people and just bring them to his house and do like scans and studies and all that modeling. So some of the smaller games, I think, were already way ahead of the curve on like, hey, even for game dev, like remote is definitely an option. Although, Joel, your Pixar story had me wondering, I'm like, what poor soul has like the render farm in his basement? His power bill is like $6,000.
Yeah, that stuff is going to be very interesting, because I mean, Jonah, he worked in California for a while at a audio company that does sound mixing and stuff like that. And so when he worked on, it was the latest RoboCop, maybe it was like 2014 or 2015 or something like that. Obviously you're there, like you're just managing so many assets. So that seems like might be one of the problems, that like, you can have certain designers or like animation artists and stuff at home. But I feel like that has to be tough for certain people to have to like,
They rely on the render farm or whatever.
Yeah, but like, okay, you have to bring all the assets, or making sure everyone has the same system and stuff. That's just, I can imagine that's going to be tough. And so I think now, obviously, probably over the last year, I'm sure more companies are like learning what's the best way to handle it. But I mean, like, you're at home, internet's going to have to be fast. Imagine like having a deadline, like, oh, my upload speed's at 8 megabytes, or I don't know, whatever the speed is. It's going to be a while, guys. Call of Duty's 200 gigs.
Exactly.
That's when you literally drive it across town and just drop it on the doorstep. Like exactly. Amazon, you put it at like the corner of like the street next to you or something.
Especially for game dev, where you're syncing the build, like I bet at least once a day, and it's not compressed or optimized yet. That's got to be massive downloads.
Yeah, there was a couple games they brought home, like animation, like suits or the
mocap suits,
motion capture suits. Yeah, and they were like doing it like right in front of their laptop and stuff. But that was like for a major film. Like,
that's wild.
How crazy is that? Like they're just trying to just barely get it done, And I'm like, that's wild. So it'll be fascinating, because I mean, Jeremiah, one last thing, I guess, on this topic. from your expectations before everything kind of like went really remote, because obviously a lot of our team had been remote already even before then, but it just went from your expectations from how you thought it was going to go to how it's going. How has it lived up to what you expected, and has it been better? Has it been like anything like really surprising, just like short or anything?
Yeah, the part that's been exactly like I expected, and it's not bad. I don't really like it. Is the sense of connection to members on the team. It's a lot harder to do it anymore, and I feel like in some ways the teams are less connected because people find their little group of friends that they hang out with, and they're on chats with them all day and stuff. But you're not seeing the other people on your team physically. So if you're not in meetings with them, you don't have to interact with them except for like a daily scrum or something.
It's a lot harder to just walk up to a chat versus walking up to like, you know, oh, you guys are talking about, the show we watch. Or...
Right. Now some teams have done a good job, I think, of like setting up Discord channels with drop in, drop out voice stuff and like doing things to try to offset it. But that's been pretty much exactly what I expected. On the good side, it's been really easy to grab people for quick conversations when like, cause everyone's at their desk and everybody's on video. So when you want to try to get a hold of somebody, or not on video, but like they have a call thing they can use right there. It's like, hey, you free? I'm free. Sweet. Let's just hop on a call. And I have a lot of impromptu calls with people just to talk through miscellaneous things. And it's like, it's really easy to wrangle people. Whereas it used to be like, so-and-so's in a meeting, so-and-so's on like the other location. Like it can be a lot harder to find people. So in a way,
3 pairs of headphones on.
Right. Everybody is in the same room kind of virtually, which is really nice. And then another thing I'm worried about long term, and this will be my last thing, is the sense of like camaraderie at the beginning when everyone's like their kids are yelling in the background and like they don't have a home work set up. You can tell who's the gamers because they already have like neon lights and RGB keyboards and like they're
I remember my first meeting hopping on with a bunch of like educators and stuff like with this setup.
Yep.
Yeah,
they were like, what's going on?
There's been a lot of people who've asked me like, why is your microphone look like that? Like, why is your video so clear? Not the video I'm using right now, but like I use a Canon camera for my webcam most of the time. It looks like Dave's camera. Yes. But like, there's that sense of camaraderie initially of like, hey, we're all in this together. Even on tonight's incident call where a bunch of stuff was broken, one guy's just sitting at his computer, like he's an assistant director and he's just eating dinner while we're all talking to each other about work stuff. And someone else is in the car driving somewhere. I think everybody has like let the barrier down of like, this is work me who's super polished and who showers every day and dresses in work clothes and drives to work to do work. And now it's like, yeah, I'm a person, you're a person. I happen to be sitting in front of my computer and I just got my coffee, like, hey, what's up? And kind of everyone I feel is on a little more of an even playing field where some of the work facade comes down and I think people are a little more honest. I do worry a little bit long term, like, is that always a good thing?
I haven't worn pants in 13 months.
Yeah, but because sometimes I think there is the thing of like, yeah, I'll join this important meeting sitting on my back porch while there's construction going on next door, or like, I'll do this stuff, and you're like, yeah, but it's work. You got to take work a little more seriously than you're taking it right now. Somebody on one of the teams, I really hope they don't watch the podcast. They joined the like the spring event we had, like everybody in the department get together, get some swag, hang out, play some games. They joined on video, baller move, wearing a bathrobe, sitting at the table in like the mudroom, and they looked like they were wearing clothes underneath it, but they were like, I'm showing up for comfort today, and they just put the bathrobe on and sat down, and they were on video. They're never on video. I didn't know what they looked like until they worked
had
for
to
me
be
for
a mistake.
month. I don't know, but like, there's that level of cover. I'm like, you shouldn't be that comfortable, but no, I'm sorry. That was a long answer to what you're asking, but I think
that's good.
There's been a lot of good stuff. I think for a lot of people in the teams, it's more positive than negatives. I worry a little bit about the teams long term, but a lot of that is just my worry of, as a leader, am I able to connect with them and form the right relationships and see people who are struggling, when you don't see them on video and stuff. That's hard, and I'm not sure what the right decisions are for some of that long term, but I think for everybody's freedom and flexibility and not commuting to work all the time, it's been a lot of positives. And for the game industry, I hope it democratizes a lot of things where, like Dave, I don't think this is stuff you haven't talked about before, so stop me if you need to, but you've been interested in working on various game industry things in the past, and a lot of the barriers are like, do you want to move to California? Do you want to pay
Yeah,
$4,000
exactly.
a month in rent? Like, no, sorry, we don't care. You know, you can't live in the mountains and do this. We don't want you. And now the expectation is no, everybody has to have good internet access. Everybody has to be able to have video and audio and all this stuff. Everybody has to know how to do these things. Like Joel, you were saying about the Zoom calls, to where, like, Dave, I'm not saying that's something you're actively pursuing right now, but like, if you wanted to, that barrier is way different than it used to be.
And actually, that was going to be my last thought was, I think two things are going to happen over the next year or so. I think this is going to be a long-term, really, really good thing for artists, especially, and contractors in the game industry. I think their opportunities are going to go crazy. You're going to have more people with more opportunities, and the people who are already working for studios are going to be able to escape some of these very expensive cities. They're going to be able to live more of their own personal life, like they've been wanting to, maybe, with a bit more freedom versus like, oh, if you work in CG, like you got to move to Toronto and all this stuff. That's going to kind of roll back a bit in a good way. But I think it is going to split a little bit. And I think we are going to see larger studios like DICE over the next year. They're going to want to bring some people back into that studio atmosphere. Some parts of game dev, I think, are going to roll back to a studio environment. I think more than anything else in tech, game dev is going to partially roll back to a studio setup. That's just my guess.
Yeah.
So, gut feeling.
So random. I don't know if you guys knew this. Epic Games, it's almost counter to what we're talking about. They actually bought a almost 1 million square foot mall to move their headquarters into, which is kind of the opposite of everybody's going remote and we're not going to need office space. They bought like significantly more office space. Like, I can't imagine them ever filling out the entire place unless they actually have like museum type things for kids to go to. But
sure.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I'm looking to change as soon as, like, we're getting pretty close to the point where, like, enough people are vaccinated, cases are dropping off. A friend who works in our local hospital, she said, like, they haven't had a COVID patient in 6 days, which is, like, it's been a while since that's been true. And we're at the point where I think some things like team lunches, we'll be able to start bringing those back for the people who are in town. Like, some of that stuff is not permanent. But, yeah, I'm surprised at buying them all. Well, maybe the real estate's cheap. The mall dried up because of COVID, and now they're just jumping on it while they can because they figured that it'll be worth more later if they ever need to move.
I think James, I think there's going to be an interesting spring back to in a different way, because I think everyone's kind of learned to adapt and work and kind of realize, wow, I can do this in certain ways. Some didn't work out well, obviously, but I think it will also be kind of a way of, and a bonus, like something I miss is like I miss going to the mall. I'm not a huge like shopper, but I just like going around and just people watching and stuff, But it's just, it can be frustrating now, But I'm like, I just want to sit there and be around people. Some people during this whole can just sit inside and like they don't care about it. I'm like, I want to be around people a lot. Like, I don't necessarily want to talk, but I just want to be around people. So I think it'll be fascinating to see how things kind of change, because of that. So hopefully it'll be for the better.
I did think of one more thing to talk about this real quick that I had some experience with that I completely forgot about. Events around games.
I hate people. I'm just kidding.
I despise all people. Something that changed last year was, all preview events for videos, YouTube stuff, it all moved remote. And I was impressed with how quickly some of the larger studios were able to basically give you remote access to preview builds and stuff like that. To do content on remotely. Like they had a few months to figure that out, before the summer gaming season really kicked off. But apparently I really miss in-person events, because I had a dream the other month about going to an event. So I apparently do miss doing that. And I think it does, you lose something besides the fact that you're playing a game on a remote connection. That's how most of it was done. So you have like that slight half-second delay on all your actions. So you're missing the responsiveness of previewing a game. You're missing the visual fidelity, because I was playing at like 720p for most of the preview builds to get the responsiveness. Yeah.
Jerry, you scared me. I was like, are you about to vomit? Whoa.
Aren't you? You just heard what he said.
I heard 720p.
Yes.
On the one hand, like it was really compressed, didn't look great, but it was actually really impressive with how responsive it was over the remote connection. Like some of the games I previewed last year, like I was like, holy crap, like they got this working well. Like I feel like I'm getting a good idea of what the game's going to be like, just not what it's going to look like. But I think it's going to be exciting for the media to be able to do in-person stuff again, for YouTubers to do it all again. Because as cool as it was to have, a game dev hanging out in a Discord channel with you while you play for 3 hours, Joel remembers like when we went to E3, getting to sit down with one of the devs doing Shadow of Mordor, and he's been working on this game for 3 years, and he's actually really excited to show you like what he's been working on. There's just something there with the connection.
Yeah. For sure.
For previewing and stuff like that. I think that's probably gonna kick off as fast as possible this year. I bet we're gonna see preview events because I think they already said Gamescom. In August, it's going to be split half population of what it used to be, but it's going to be in person and remote this year already.
There's a rock festival that's in the fall, Dave, about an hour south of where we are, and they're announcing like 1 or 2 bands a week, and so far they're announcing everybody. Like every band is like, yes, please, can I play it? Like I don't care, put me on the gig, I'll play outside. Like they're getting everybody they want to because people are just so desperate to do it. James, I think you had something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think long term, and not just game dev, but for any industry. I mean, not tech, but just literally any industry. I think if we have a lasting cultural change, it would be the ability to have flexibility with going to meetings, because we're inundated with just meeting after meeting after meeting, and sometimes you're thinking your mind, your body's there, but your mind is thinking about the 10 other things you should be working on at the same time. And I think if we could have a culture shift where people are able to dial into meetings but still be working on something else, so they can, if they hear something pertinent to them, they can then chime in or catch that piece of information.
There has been some of that.
I mean, if that could be a cultural shift, not just for gaming, for anybody, I think that would be.
I would rather go in the other direction, James, where I'm trying to cut meetings down to like, instead of 30 minutes, which is the default, that's what everybody picks, unless it needs to be an hour. I'm trying to get stuff to 15 minutes. And like, if I can get them at 15 minutes, can I get them down to 10? Because I'd rather have a lot of intense focus. Let's talk about it. And then let's get out of here and everybody go back to your stuff. Because I hate the meetings that drag for 30 minutes because everyone's like, oh, sorry, I was muted. Oh, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Can you say it again? Oh, sorry, I was over here. Like, I don't like that personally. And it might be like I'm in different situations than you are. So I'm not saying what you're doing isn't valid. Like what you've experienced isn't valid. But I don't like it because I feel like because everyone feels like, well, we're all here and we can just waste time, and everyone doesn't have the accountability of like, we can't see you all, so you can be muted and off camera and like totally not paying attention, but you're at this meeting because you need to provide value, and now we have to go for 30 minutes because you're not like doing your part to help resolve the thing and move on. So I'd rather have like 5 minutes, everybody's on video talking, and we all take turns, go through our stuff, make decisions, and leave. Like, that's what I want. Because I hate how many meetings I'm in right now.
I mean, but you can do both. I'm saying that there are still going to be people who meet in person. Generally, the higher ups are always going to meet in person, moving forward.
Yeah.
But
the
time wasted in like hopping your car and driving to another location, or leaving, like mentally stopping what you're doing, leaving to go there, even if it's down the hall, you're still taking yourself from one space to another, and it just kind of puts the brakes on productivity, I think, sometimes. And I've been in meetings where I've said, look, I've got to get this done. I can either sit here and work on it, or I can just not come to the meeting, but this has to be done. And generally they say, don't come. But, I think by being able to dial in, you can at least hear, and if there's something you need to like, oh, wait, what did they say about that? Then I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. I feel like in a way, some meetings have gotten a lot better because when we were in person, it was so easy for anyone to just be like, oh, hey man, what are you doing? Or oh, you working on that? Let me give it thought. Like, it was almost like, you have to give a little bit more thought now. Like, if you want to have a meeting with me, it's like, schedule the time. What do you want to talk about? I'll try to pre-message like, hey, what are we
baller
doing?
Joel, if you want to meet with me, you gotta find an open spot on my schedule.
Speak to my people.
Or meet him in the parking lot where he's selling his DVDs.
Well, okay, so before, when we were in person, we would get the most dumbest emails that would just give no information, no content, nothing. It was like, you're wasting everybody's time. So when I would say like, hey, if we're gonna have a meeting, I'll just write a little quick bullet of like, what do you want to do? Like, this is what we need to get done. We need to tackle this page. I don't have the information. So when we get there, like, just let's get to the point. Let's try to get to it. As opposed to, it was like, yeah, when you're in person. I mean, the one thing I'm so happy without is just the like constant distractions when I was at work. Like, so it's just for me, like I work with one screen. I can't do multiple screens. I got to be focused, right? And sometimes, you know, when you're designing or when you're creating something like that, like when you have like a blank page and you go, okay, I have to create a site. Here's my limited content. It takes me a few minutes to kind of get into it. Okay. And like once you find that rhythm, okay, now I'm in. But all of a sudden that will always be the time when someone might, hey, do you want to go grab coffee? Or, hey, what you working on? You know? And that was nice. Like there's parts that I do miss that, but it's nice to be able to have that, like, that can't actually happen now anymore. Like it's wonderful. Like I'll get a message from Jeremiah saying, hey, can you talk about some project? Like I have that there, but it's not like completely tap on the shoulder, take you out of your headphones. Oh, cool. And I saw Jeremiah message. I'll be there in 2 seconds. I'm like finishing something up. I can finish a thought, a design thing I'm doing. And they go, hey, Jeremiah, what's up? You know, as opposed to, like the moment you like get stuck in and you're like, I'm ready to design. I'm really plowing through this project. You know, then you get like, hey, we got a quick meeting. And it's like, oh, it's
tap on the shoulder.
So,
and
yeah.
You can kind of,
it was both great. It was both great,
bit.
But yeah, I enjoy that because I mean that's the way I kind of like working.
I too enjoy ignoring Jeremiah frequently.
I will say, Joel, and we're not getting to like it's time for your quarterly review live on the podcast.
No,
but you were one of the people that when you went remote, we saw a big jump in the quality of your work and the speed. Like there are some people where it's a better fit. Like I can be at home in my own environment with my music and like
pantless.
Like Joel today,
I think that's Joel's aerodynamic
Joel today
creativity.
Joined the big weekly everyone presents their stuff meeting, literally laid down in his bed, laying on his back with the computer on his tum-tum, joining the meeting. So like again, there's some people I'm like, you gotta try a little harder. But no, Joel was one of the people that like for your focus and the quality of your work and stuff, you got better at every part of your job except connecting with people in person when you went remote. Right? And there's other people who've been like that. They've never been better. And it's great for them. I'm so glad that that's an option. I feel bad for the extroverts though, because there are some people, there's one person, she'd call me like every couple of weeks. She's like, hey, just talk. I don't know.
Joel, did you ever see the video from a few months back of like, I think it was a college student who called into class and like, it was one of those days where like, they just couldn't get out of bed, right? So like, okay, I'll call into class like from the covers with my laptop, like it'll be fine. But they like immediately fell back asleep so that their video comes on, right? And they're like under the covers, like smiling. And the whole class is like trying to wake them up and they're just cozy as can be. That was 100% you today.
All right.
So I had my laptop charger upstairs because it was bad because I like my back was hurting a couple days ago and so I was just working. I have like a nice laptop stand there, right? And I had it for Joy. Like if you're sick or whatever, it's like nice because you can still work. It's got a room for your phone. And then Joy works home on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so she was borrowing my other charger downstairs at my actual desk and everything. So I was like, well, I'll quickly run upstairs and hop into my cozy tortilla blanket that I got.
All right.
Oh, man.
It's now time for What Are You Playing This Week? A part of the podcast where we talk about what we're playing. Since the last podcast, it's technically What Are You Playing This Week? But let's be honest, it's been what, like 4 weeks since the last one? So
just change it to month.
Oh, mine will be pretty quick.
Yeah, we can probably go pretty quick.
Yeah, we'll go quick. You guys cool skipping news, by the way? Just for time's sake?
Yeah, let's save news for next time.
Okay.
Yeah, we can save it next time.
Yeah, it's super timely stuff. I've been playing Valheim.
Yeah, well, this topic didn't have much to talk about, right, Jeremiah?
That's true.
It wasn't very,
all right.
Wasn't very deep.
Okay, I'm sorry, my work depression. I wasn't able to think through everything. So, Valheim, I've started playing that, and we actually have a little group of us that are playing. I'm hosting a server off of a server that I built during quarantine. That was a fun quarantine project. And it's nice having like a persistent world that everyone can hop into. I built a giant longhouse one weekend. I had plans, and then I spent almost the entire weekend playing Valheim just building a longhouse.
You were up late, Mr. College Jeremiah, all of a sudden.
I hear that there's like other stuff to do in the game, but I'm still like first biome building a neighborhood. But I really enjoy it. To me, it's like the best combinations of the creativity of Minecraft, mild role playing and action elements, like a, kind of MMO RPG style, like not great combat, but good enough, that type of thing. And graphics, like the lighting is beautiful. And I'm not a huge fan of like the voxel or pixelated graphics look. I think it works pretty well in the game because the lighting is so beautiful. And there's survival elements, but they don't feel like they're punishing you just for the sake of existing, like some other survival games, like where like you're supposed to hate every moment of playing it. And in Valheim, I don't feel like I do. So I'm having a lot of fun playing it. It's good.
If it comes to console, I actually want to give it a shot. It looks kind of fun.
Yeah.
To me, I like a little bit of having like you can do anything you want, but also there's kind of like a bit of an objective if you want, and I really like that.
I saw the dev team responded to somebody asking like, "Are you going to bring it to Mac?" And they're such a small dev team. Their answer was, "None of us own a Mac, so no, we don't have plans to do that right now. Like, we can't test and build it on a Mac because we don't."
I wonder how much bigger their team will get or whatever. Because I'm like, it seems like the game's doing really well. It's
Microsoft's
like
probably trying to buy them for like a couple million right now or something.
That's probably
Yeah.
All
right.
Good luck to them. Hopefully,
Dave, how about you?
Check my list real quick. Beat Cyberpunk.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a
let's
severe
save
thunderstorm
Cyberpunk
warning.
for another discussion.
Yeah. Let's save Cyberpunk for
Because that would be a good one.
I want to do a spoiler
Once
cast.
Dave watches that video too. Okay, so before Dave talks about it, like
It's
if we do another podcast, there's
Is that going to be our thing like every week if we do another podcast?
Yeah. the 45-minute gameplay clip. I really want you, Jeremiah and Dave, to watch through it and then just give your input on that.
The original demo from like a couple years ago.
Yes.
And I didn't watch any of those.
That was really part of my frustration of what I thought the game was going to be to what it was, even excluding all the bugs. Like, I just would love to, because you guys, you played through it. Dave's now beat it or whatever. So I don't know all the rest that was in it. So I'm curious, like, if you watch that and like see from my perspective, like, oh man, I'm excited for this game. What was the game like? So
Dave, can you save
That would
off?
be a cool
Can you
discussion.
save off your backup clip? Just save that off and start another one. It has not flickered here yet, but it seems like it might. And if it does, we're going to lose all of this. So if you wouldn't mind just
Okay.
give her a spin to do. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. We should do a Cyberpunk deep dive on an upcoming week. Because I have literally not talked to Dave about this at all since he beat it. I would love to talk about it more.
I just beat it last.
Is that going to be
end of last week.
spoilery?
Yes. Or
All
we
right,
could do a
so-
spoiler. We could do a spoiler-free one if we want to. But like, I want to talk to Dave about the spoilers. Okay, this is maybe unethical.
Ooh, you can have a
scheduled
casual conversation.
That's true. I scheduled a meeting with two members of my team who have beat the game. I scheduled a meeting on the clock to talk about Cyberpunk with them because I just needed to talk about it with somebody, and they had to come because they work for me.
Good. So, Joel, you want me to save
Wait, is that how
my...
the podcast is working? Is this a scheduled meeting for Joel and Dave?
yeah. I mean, I would just, I would
why
say
am I
that.
here?
I mean, having you guys watch the video has nothing to do with like ruining your experience, but it's like I would love to see the different perspective of having you guys completely beat it.
Do you want me to save my loot confession story though?
Yes, probably.
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah.
We need to give that the magic that it is due.
It's something else that's going to make Joel really angry with how I play. So actually, I kind of want to let me go ahead and run through that because that'll be a separate than beating the game and then about the game because it's just me being me. It's not really about Cyberpunk.
The dog is joining me in my office because it's raining and thundering, and he's scared.
I'll just roll through real quick. Other games, End Zone, World Apart, enjoying that little city builder game. Rainbow is Magic came back for Rainbow Six Siege, their
goodness.
April Fool's event. That was so much fun again. Although I got tired of it faster than I did last time.
Yeah.
Last time I was sad when it was over. I was done with it this year.
I'm
Goodbye,
down here
Jeremiah.
right now petting the dog because he's trembling really badly because of the storm.
So my main thing is
You
I'll
could
do
lower
my,
the desk. It'd be a little less awkward.
That's a good point.
I'll do my loot. I'll do my loot confession here because
Ooh, look at this cinematic. Hold on. Everybody just...
Ooh, yeah.
Whoa.
Jeremiah's got one of those special riser desks.
Now it's a lowering desk. He's scared. Okay,
So you're
sorry.
playing End Zone. You're playing Rainbow Six.
You're playing...
but-
what does that say?
What is it?
What are you playing alone on here?
Oh, Battlefield 5 alone. I've definitely come to enjoy parts of that game quite a lot. I will miss some parts of Battlefield 5 that I hope that they pull some features into the next game. But it's just me, all by my lonesome. But loot confession. So this is actually I'm having to consciously break myself of this habit now. I realized I was going back and doing some of the side missions and police missions after beating the main game. I realized that I was stuck in a gameplay cycle rut. because of a branch of my character that I decided to cap out. I wanted to do maximum crafting, right? So there's tons of levels to crafting. To get the best guns in the game, you have to level it all the way up so you can get the best blueprints and craft all the best guns, right? RPG style. I had perks where you could tear apart guns that you pick up for parts. And then I had stacked other perks on top of that where you could not only tear apart the guns for parts for then crafting better guns, but you would have like, a 15% chance of getting like the next level parts. So say you have a gray gun, you could get like a 30% chance of getting green parts from that and it like on up from there. And sometimes like you would craft and you get like double parts, and sometimes you craft your own gun and you get them for free. Like I was really focusing for most of my playthrough, 160 hours, on the crafting tree, right? I even had a perk, Joel, where when I picked up junk loot, right, it would immediately scrap it for me when I picked it up, which was super convenient. Here's the problem.
He like picks up a little child, like, scrapped.
So here's the gameplay rut that I got into that I didn't realize until I recently maxed out the crafting tree finally. So like I'm done with it, right? But I realized for probably 125 plus of those hours, Joel, I did not leave a single gun behind in a fight. I am talking every common level piece of loot,
Yeah,
Joel.
I mean, I did that too.
I picked up every single melee, gun, junk loot, every single object.
It's free
for 130
money.
plus hours.
It's free money.
Yeah. Which means, Joel, after every single fight, because the junk loot would auto scrap. That was a huge time saver, thankfully. But all of the guns, I would have to open up my inventory and go down and scrap. It
takes forever.
And then occasionally, yeah. And then occasionally, like, the HUD would move, like the scroll wheel would move, and I would occasionally accidentally scrap, like, one of my actual guns. So then I have to reload a save and do it all again. But I realized, Joel, having just, after beating the game, I maxed out the crafting tree, right? I had this, like, come to Jesus moment where I did one of the police missions and like I'm going around grabbing all that junk loot, grabbing all these crappy guns that I'm literally just gonna scrap, and I'm like, Joel,
the ray beams came down, shown to the police car, which of course you're driving.
I was driving a police car. the clouds parted and it hit me. I'm like, I don't have to loot all these crappy guns anymore. Like I'm done with the crafting tree. And then I kind of sat back and I'm like, how many of my 150 total hours were just spent scrapping guns?
They desperately need like a bulk craft, bulk loot, bulk upgrade thing. Like it's crazy that it doesn't have that.
You should be able to favorite your guns and then just hit a button that says scrap everything else.
So I played a little more anarchist style. I scrapped my own guns many, many times. I never reloaded to save. I just went, oh well, I'll get a different one.
Because some of them you can't get back, apparently. So I would always reload. But yeah, I had to kind of catch myself there, Joel.
From my, like, I think I played 8 hours of it.
Yeah.
The game reminded me so much of Borderlands.
We're talking about Cyberpunk later. We're going to...
Anyways, it's just relating to the guns, of how many guns there were. Like,
yes, it is like Cyberpunk.
I can't get in. I just can't get into that. I hate it. So I hate so much
to sit
loot. Like, I can enjoy, like, getting... So, like, in Fallout, like, I don't like indie randomization. I really don't like randomization.
I appreciate that,
whatsoever in games.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna collect like 3 cans, duct tape, or whatever, and then you create a gun, like I'm okay with that. But if you collect duct tape, scrap parts, and then hope to create a gun, like that is just a no for me. But
and that's what's weird for me. Joel,
do you think that?
For most games, I'm exactly the same way. And I'm not 100% sure why I got so obsessed in this one. Maybe because it's single player and like I could take my own time. And a lot of the top level guns, was it legendary ones that you can craft? Like they were actually like unique skins. No, they're orange actually.
Oh.
A lot of them were like uniquely named, unique textures, unique abilities. So it did feel like you were actually working on something unique. You just literally scrapped 8,000 other guns to get to those. But yeah,
that was something that definitely I think turned me off to the game, especially for immersion stuff. Because like even like with Last of Us, I loved when you finally get a part to upgrade a gun. Like it was really meaningful, and it felt like I'm so much more powerful now. You know what I mean? And so obviously, I mean, like they're different kind of games, but like when it's like randomization and stuff, it's like and you get so much. Like I just hated looking through it because I would get like 40 pistols every 2 minutes. Like I get pistols and pistols, and I was like, they're all about the same. Like okay, this stat is like 1% higher. I'm like, who cares? So, but
and the difficulty kind of auto levels.
Do you think you'll carry that with you anywhere else?
Sorry.
Do you think you'll carry that realization to any other games of kind of going?
I don't think
done
so.
enough of this in games.
I don't think so, because Division, I didn't like any of it. Like, I would buy, like, one gun and I'd be done. I wouldn't want to loot any of the others, because I didn't feel like scrapping and upgrading. Didn't like that in Borderlands. I mean, for some reason, this just clicked. Maybe because I was just so invested in the world and doing the free run missions that I just got really into it. But anyway.
All right, James, what have you been playing?
I played a little bit of Rainbow's Magic with Dave. I haven't been playing much. I did also play some Rocket League.
What is Rainbow is Magic?
It's Rainbow Six.
Oh, did you miss out again, Jeremiah?
Oh,
you played this with us before, didn't you?
Yeah, I played it with you guys before. I'm sorry, I read what you had on the dock, and I thought it was some like kids game or something you were playing with your kids.
No, it's the April Fool's event.
Okay. I haven't played with you guys this most recent time. I would like to though. I played like once a couple weeks ago and had forgotten how to do almost everything. But yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
Really played much else. I did buy a laptop to play a little more gaming, do a little bit more gaming. I bought it for editing, but it has a 2070 in it, so...
Oh, dang.
Hopefully I can get a little bit more game time in.
Joel, what about you?
Still playing through Bloodborne with my brothers. It's been a lot of fun. We're now on the DLC.
I still can't buy a PS5, and you guys are on your like 3 games in.
Dude, we played through Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, now Bloodborne, and then we're gonna go through Dark Souls 3 together. But yeah, playing through that, but then absolutely loving Kingdoms of Amalur on Switch.
Oh yeah.
So I've always gotten so far to a certain point, and then because of my horrible luck with save files, I'd lose something, or I don't know, whatever it was. Switch is like the perfect home for that game.
Nice.
Because the quests are not too crazy long. But the thing that I'm actually really surprised with is how interesting the story is. Like, I've always gotten to a certain point, so I kind of know the story up to that point, but I've now gotten to a point where I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. I didn't quite... So the world's pretty fun. It's definitely a fun little game. And it's all the DLC, and they're releasing a new like story chapter to the game. And the game came out like 2012 or something, like right after Skyrim. So, but it holds up. It's like, it has kind of a little bit clunky, but it's fun.
Nice.
So
very nice.
It works great on the Switch as like a quick game.
Now it's now mail time, but we don't have any mail. You know, I don't expect anyone to write into the podcast. I'm asking people to write into the podcast for my informal poll that Joel thought I should ask people. Because I asked this in a work call, and apparently I am more abnormal than I thought. I thought this was a pretty normal thing, and I still maintain there are other people who do this, but the more people I ask, the more people who don't do this. Who scans and saves every bill and...
What will you scan? You scan. I just thought you just kept just the...
Oh, no. I
receipts.
digitized it.
I digitized. So you have duplicates.
No, I throw away the originals. I scan them so I don't have to keep the originals, but all the bills that come in and all major receipts for purchases, I scan and organize in my financial folders on my computer and then throw the originals away. And apparently...
And how long have you been doing this?
Since...
How far do the archives go back?
2010.
Star Wars, man. What, 2010?
Yeah. Well, it's a folder. What do you just delete it on the computer? Like, why would I get rid of it?
So what do you think is, in your perspective, the most ridiculous thing that you've scanned and saved?
Okay, no, but you're treating this like this is some big joke. I don't think it's that ridiculous. You don't know what's going to be necessary later. That's why you save it, so you can reference it later if you need it.
After 10 years, you should have a pretty good idea of what's going to be useful later.
But I forget. I forget what I've scanned a lot. Okay, so the utility bills from 10 years ago could be deleted, for sure. I just saved the confirmation that I paid them.
Do you have every like car thing that's ever been done to one of your cars,
Yes.
or like fixed or
Yeah,
repaired?
but that means
makes
if I go to
sense,
sell a car or I want to look up the history, I can.
But I'm talking about like oil changes and stuff.
No, I don't save like when I bought the oil. I don't care about that, or when I bought the filters. Like I'll save it as part of like here's my receipt for a bunch of other stuff I bought from Rock Auto, but I won't save like I went to Advance and grabbed a gallon of oil. I don't save that. Except for the Miata because it's under warranty, so I have to be able to show that I've been doing all the oil changes in order for the warranty to be valid.
Have you ever saved a receipt that like you just went and got like ice cream?
No, that's the thing. I don't think it's that ridiculous. It's important stuff.
But is your archive searchable? Can you search ice cream?
I put the name of whatever I bought in the title of the thing, so yes, it's searchable. And yes, when I need to
Can
look,
your homework before next time search ice cream? And if you have one, you got to tell me.
I'll look, but there's no ice cream in there. Maybe there will be soon for the
What about
ice cream
gelato
making,
or something?
Yeah, the ice cream making supplies that I buy. Oh man, no, that would have been the credit card bill when we went to Italy. It was just gelato 3 times a day for 2 weeks. We took a picture every time we got gelato. We took a picture of the gelato just as it started almost like as a joke of like, look, we're getting gelato again, and it's like a whole page in the photo book we made of just like thumbnails of gelato. But that's my question.
And then you're like, we don't speak of this anymore. We just get gelato. We stay quiet. This is our thing.
I thought
now.
this was just like a type A thing, but the other type A people I've asked are like, no, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? So I want to know, somebody in the legions of listeners to Casual Shenanigans, there must be somebody who's like, yes, because you never know if you'll need them. I hear you. I see you. Please write in and make me feel not alone.
And to make
Orders
Jeremiah feel
receipt
better.
edition.
Yeah, to make Jeremiah feel better, has your 10 or 15 years of archiving paid off?
Mine, I definitely.
Are we all going to suffer the consequences? And Jeremiah's over here scot-free. It's like, well, actually, guys,
There have been a couple.
I did
got
go
an
get ice
alibi.
cream.
There have been a couple. There have been a couple times where I've been able to go reference old information that likely would have been lost, like the VIN number of my first car. Why do you need to have that information? Because I was trying to find it so I could buy it again. Did I find it? I did not. But I had the VIN number. Can you say the
So
same
it didn't pay off.
Wait, I had the All right. It's now time. Casual Shenanigans, write into casualshenanigans@gmail.com to be a part of the show and make Jeremiah feel better. It's now time for the comment of the week. Dave, what do you have for us?
We're skipping this week.
Okay,
We're gonna
it's
keep
now
rolling.
time for 90 Seconds with Joel, a part of the podcast where Joel talks about whatever he wants. Please for 90 seconds, though, because...
Wait, let me just put in the time of when we're doing this.
Uh-huh.
Can you say this title out loud?
Yes, I'd like him to, because I do not understand what we're about to listen to, and I'm a little bit worried.
Well, okay, I just did it because I didn't want to spoil it. So, okay, I'll be quick. So I had a recollection. I was just curious if anyone else had this experience. So, and it kind of depends on the kind of house you maybe grew up in. So I remember one time as a kid, I think I was like 10 or something like that. So my parents went out for dinner or whatever, and I was home with my brother. And it was like, one of the odd times there was like, oh, your parents are gone, like we're kings of the house for a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember I just had this weird thought of like, I don't think I've ever been into my parents' bathroom. Like, have you ever had... because again, if you live in like a smaller house or whatever, like you might have one bathroom,
right.
or, depending. So that's never not a thing. But for anyone who's had like, here's the kid's bathroom, and then they have their private room and they have their own bathroom and shower and everything. Well, I was like, I felt so wrong. I was like opening the door and I was like peering around, but it like felt like I was on a different planet. Like I walked in, I was like, it was just weird. Like I like went up to like the mirror and I was like, what's behind? I'm like, okay, vitamins. Like, what is that? What is this? And it was just like weird, hollowed ground. It was just creepy. But I just remember like this. I was like, exploring.
Did you find anything you shouldn't have found?
Yeah, this is a lot more wholesome than I was expecting based on the title. I thought this was going to be really bad.
I was like checking the shower, and I was like, oh, what the heck is that? I was like, ugh, and I like ran out of the room. I was like, ugh. Has anyone else had that experience? Like, it was just like, weird. Like, I don't know. I just never like went in their room.
Growing up when I was younger,
like,
my parents'
looked at
bathroom,
things,
we were a two bathroom house, and when there was only a couple of the kids, we were able to all use the hall bathroom. But then as there were more of us, like 6 kids, you don't have a
had
choice.
it or something. Jeez.
Yeah, like when you're having showers or whatever, like you have to split up. And so we were able to start using my parents' bathroom, but that wasn't until many years in. But like my grandparents' bathroom, that's the one where like they had a really big house. and they had like so lots of guest rooms and other bathrooms and stuff. But it was always like if I ever went into their room to get something or to pick something up, it's like this is where they live. This is weird, even though it's their whole house.
It's weird because like when my parents would be in the room, like sometimes I would get up early, like we'd have like breakfast, something like that, or sometimes I would sit in the bed and we would like listen to radio or something. I remember my dad, we would listen to like suspense radio stuff in the evening. He had these old cassette tapes. Did you ever listen to like old time radio?
Joel. Suspense radio. What? A police scanner?
No, like suspense, like mystery. Like, do you ever listen to the old time radio shows?
No.
Hey, I'm gonna send you one. It has Cary Grant in it. It's really, really good.
You send me a cassette tape?
No, I'll just send it on YouTube.
Okay,
Actually,
all right.
Everyone look this up. Look it up. It's called On a Country Road.
Okay.
It's maybe about 30 minutes total, a radio show. Turn the lights off. Like seriously, just like get covered in a blanket and just it's a great like radio show. But it has Cary Grant, I forget who else in it, but I used to listen to those all the time as a kid, but it was like, it felt fine. Like your parents in there, but like the moment they're gone, it just felt weird. Like I was like, I didn't want to touch anything. Like I felt like my dad would know anything I touched. I was like, so I would just
my mom
dusted my fingerprints off.
My mom did a thing where when she would leave, she would give us a list of chores so long that like you had to be busting to get that done by the time she got home. She knew what she was doing. I'd be in trouble if I didn't get them all done, and the only way to get them done was to not screw around and work the entire time.
Dude, you were prepared really well for this job. Thanks, Mom. Slave driver.
Well, that's the podcast.
That's all I have.
Normally, this is the point where we're like, follow us on social media, write into the show, support us on Patreon. I do want to give a shout out. Actually, somebody upped their Patreon pledge.
It's alive.
Yeah, well, like
you fool.
Well, I am having to pay now to host the podcast episode, so like I actually appreciate this.
Oh crap! I forgot about that. I thought we only had to pay if you like releasing it.
I was paying the cheap like $7 per month one just to keep them all up. But Nicole, thank you, Nicole. Nicole upped her pledge to help us cover the podcast. Thank you. Awesome. I personally appreciate it. It's actually funny. We haven't run out of the original CSG money. I kept it like all our remaining Patreon money, and it's been slowly dribbling down by like $7 a month, paying for the podcast hosting for the 3 years we were offline.
Jeremiah, you were the right person to do that. Now knowing about all your taxes, you can look like, no, actually, Joel, when we did that Ranger Day film, we paid $37.13 for that makeup.
Okay,
and
when we did the Ranger Day film, I had to turn in receipts to Jeremiah to get repaid for some of the props.
And Jeremiah still has them. Don't worry.
Because I have to report the income. So I have to have the receipts to say these. Like that's
but
normal.
You've already reported the income, right?
Yes,
so
in the year that it happened.
Useless now.
Why would I throw away a scanned document? Just leave it. It doesn't hurt anything. It's 10 kilobytes. Why would I get rid of it?
He's got his receipt servers right next to his Valheim.
Now,
Valheim server.
I will say
it explores each server in the same amount of time too.
I will say though, it's a lot of for old like school stuff, I zipped up all my school folders from like fall 2009, spring 2010, because it's a lot of files that I just don't want getting indexed and stuff. But if I ever need to reference them, and a lot of my old freelance photos. So like I still have all my hard drives from when I did freelance, and they had all the assets and all the projects I worked on for all those clients. And I know I don't need them anymore. I'm not under contract with those people to keep any of that stuff, but you never know. So I've just zipped them all up. So like everything I did for this one client is a 145 gigabyte zip file, and it just sits there. And 50 years from now, maybe I'll delete it, but maybe I won't.
So what you're saying is I should give you the Norman backups and just let you deal with that, because I know it'll be secure for the next 2,000 years.
I have a system. There's a server sitting next to the main server that I just built out of
Joel, you got him
spare parts.
started on hard drives.
And I'm taking that server to my dad's house in a couple months, and I'm not going to have cloud backups anymore. It's just going to be my desktop, the server downstairs, and it's going to mirror itself to a server 200 miles away.
Actually, Jeremiah, if you have a hard drive or a long-term backup suggestion,
how many terabytes do you need?
On multiple drives.
How many terabytes do you need?
I think 12. I think.
Okay, I don't have 12 terabytes free. How much?
Yeah. Well, no, not for you, but I'm saying like if there's something, because I was actually talking with Picor about it like I obviously have drives, but it's been nice because I've been actively working on it. And I know
you're
where
gonna
they
get
are,
bit
and
rot and
I have it
stuff.
online on Dropbox
Yeah.
too. But I was starting to think of what if I just unplug a drive. Like I've had drives just die where it's like you plug it in a year later and it's like just
bit
didn't
rot.
start
It has
up.
to be
So-
plugged in and running on a regular basis for it to be good.
So if you have a suggestion, that would be good. That I could just pop it on. At least that would be good for the next year.
No, for long-term storage, really the best thing to do is keep it on a hard drive that's actively spinning in a computer on a regular basis, and then just upgrade to newer drives as you fill stuff up and as storage gets cheaper. That's really the best way, because there's like magnetic tape you could burn to disks, but you'll lose stuff. You won't have the right things.
Gotcha.
Storage always updates and gets better, so I would just have the hard drive spinning in your desktop or something. Or if you're getting rid of your desktop now and you're just going to use like network storage, get a Synology, like a network attached storage from a Synology or something, and just have it. I can talk to you about that later, and just store stuff on it. And then when it's time to upgrade, just upgrade to a bigger one, and you'll just have that folder somewhere that's the zip of all of your Norman stuff or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's good. Just because I mean, like, I use my PC for like nothing other than Norman now, and like, at some point the computer's gonna die or something like that. But yeah, I was trying to think of like, what do I do?
Yeah, I can help you. I'm my friend Mason. I think you remember him. He came on vacation with us once, and I set him up with online backup, but he just never plugs his computer into the internet. Like he's always just like living in his car or on a trip somewhere, and he has like terabytes of weddings and photo shoots to back up. So we finally we have a system where he brings me portable hard drives, and then he buys me stuff for the server. Sometimes he'll buy me a new storage drive because like almost half my server storage is his work backup stuff. Just.
Yeah, dude, if you can find me something that's like a network I can just plug in upstairs, but I can connect it via Mac
we'll plug into your router.
Yeah,
we'll just plug into your router. We can fill it up with a couple drives. Super simple. You can access it remotely.
That's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Happy birthday, Dave.
Joel, you're going to want to write into the Casual Shenanigans Tech podcast at Casual Shenanigans.
Ooh, sweet. Yeah, when is the next episode coming out, guys?
Gosh, that's a good question.
I've been needing a good sleep. Okay, confession. I still go back. Dude, I just go like this. I open the app and I go swipe and I just let it fling and I'm like, ooh, tech one. And I just hit it. And I'm like, and it's kind of funny listening now because it's like such old video cards now or whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is even perfect because it's even more relevant.
Dave, we ought to do a Casual Shenanigans
That's what
Tech.
every content creator wants to hear, Joel, is when I need a good sleep, I just bring up your content and I spin the wheel.
What I
It's all
heard is he's
good
accessing
snooze.
the old episodes because he likes them. Dave, we ought to do a Casual Shenanigans Tech special episode where we try to build someone a computer in today's market, like shopping on eBay or something.
It's about as bad as trying to help someone build an AR. It's like, well, you'll wait 6 to 8 months to fight someone for the chance to buy parts for about 42 seconds.
I still can't buy a PS5. Yeah, if anyone watching the show has a line where I can buy a PS5 for MSRP, I would like to abuse my connections as a former influencer to get that, please. Thank you.
as a former.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the show. As always, you can write to casualshenanigans@gmail.com to be a part of the show. You can tweet at casualshenaniga. We do look at that every once in a while. We are no longer on Facebook or YouTube, and the website is gone. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Jeremiah, we're on YouTube right now.
We're on YouTube.
You will not find us. You will never see us.
Oh, yeah, we're not on
gone.
Facebook. Never
We're
mind.
ghosts.
We're on Spotify now and Apple Podcasts. Someone asked about that after the last one.
Yeah, we'll be back on the 15th.
Yeah, on the 15th next week to talk about stuff.
So it won't be as random. You can actually plan on that.
Yep, we'll be back.
Until we all go, nah, we're not doing it on the 15th. Scrap it. People are like waiting up.
I'm tired.
All right, thank you, everybody, for coming out. And until next time, stay casual.